This is Viterbi Voices.
Coming to you from the University of Southern California, Viterbi School of Engineering.
We're here to give you the inside scoop on research, classes, student life, and so much more.
All of these shared by students, faculty, alumni, and other members of the USC community.
Well, hey, folks. Welcome back to another episode of the Viterbi Voices podcast. My name is Cameron. I'm one of your co-hosts. I'm a senior studying computer science and business administration here at the Viterbi School of Engineering. As you guys know, it's actually really close to the end of the month. In fact, May 1st is just tomorrow. And so as it's going up on Sunday, I want to wish everyone good luck and congratulations on being done with the college admission process, accepting your decisions, and figuring out where you're going to go to school for the next 4 years. Of course, many of us hope it's USC and hope it's Viterbi. We do know everyone's going to go wherever they need to go. And so just congratulations. It's a difficult process. And I remember for me, making the decision wasn't always the easiest thing in the world, especially just because there's so much going on, so many things to think about, especially as you're finalizing those final details to figure out where you're going to spend your next 4 years and do with your education. But nonetheless, it's something to be proud of, be accomplished with. So as you guys are going out there, making your decision day posts, posting on Instagram, telling your families and friends, and keeping the secret for some of you out there who want to have a little build up, enjoy it. And make sure to take that summer off and really rest up and recover and get ready for college. It's going to be a wild ride. And I know you guys are going to have so much fun doing it. And everyone's just really proud of everything you guys are doing out there for the listeners. This week's episode, I'm actually joined by a guest on the podcast, Victoria, and she's bringing us an entirely self-produced episode all about hackathons with two of her friends, Emily and Silas. I'm not going to go ahead and steal too much of the spotlight, and I'll turn it over to Victoria to introduce herself and take us to the main body of the episode.
Hi, I'm Victoria Pinkett. I'm a junior studying mechanical engineering at USC. And as Cameron said, this episode is all about hackathons. How I would describe a hackathon is basically just an opportunity for you and a team to come together and solve a problem. There's a lot of different types of hackathons, from like hardware to software. And I think they're really good opportunities to really apply what you've learned in class and build like your personal and professional network. I've participated in one hackathon, a medical device hackathon. But in this conversation, I brought two of my friends, Emily and Silas, who have participated in a lot of hackathons to really share their experience. So I'm super excited for you guys to hear it. And let's get on to the episode. Welcome to our podcast about hackathons. I'm joined with Silas and Emily, two expert hackathoners here. So we're very lucky. So we're just going to start with some brief introductions to the hackathon kings and queens. So if you guys could just introduce yourselves briefly, name, major.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like hackathon expert is a lot, but I appreciate the honor. But yeah, my name is Emily. I am currently a senior. I'm majoring in electrical and computer engineering. I'm also sticking around for my master's degree in electrical engineering here at USC. And I think I've done 6 hackathons during my time in college. Yeah.
That's a great introduction. I have not done as many hackathons. Hi, everyone. My name is Silas John. I'm a current sophomore here at USC studying computer engineering, computer science. So just another flavor of CS. And I've only done one hackathon in college. So excited to talk about that.
Yeah, well, you guys are expert hackathoners, regardless, because you guys have done very well in your hackathons. So, and then a lot of people might not know what a hackathon is coming into this episode. So I was just wondering if you guys can explain, I guess, in your own words, what a hackathon is.
Sure. Yeah. I'd say a hackathon is usually 24 to 48 hours. Sometimes they're multiple days. Essentially this event where you come up with a project, you make it in that 24 to 48 hour timeline. Typically it's a software project or some sort, like an app, a website. It can also be a hardware hack. That's what I tend to specialize in. And then you present at the end of the 24 hours. You make this nice little post with all the work you did, and you present to judges, and then you can win some really cool prizes.
So actually, the most recent hackathon I competed in was USC's Hackathons. It's one of the most famous annual hackathons we host here. In Hackathons, you're allowed to compete in a team of up to 4 people, and that's what I did. I actually asked 3 of my friends to join the hackathon with me. In Hackathons, there were 4 different verticals that any team could compete in, which are global connections, global impact, global economy, or beyond the globe, because the hackathon had like an overall theme of globalization. And our team competed in global impact. Uh, each team competed against other teams in their own bracket, as well as like prizes for the best hack overall and things like that. So that's sort of how Hackathons was organized.
Awesome. Thank you, Silas. And then Emily, um, I know you've also participated in Hack-SC, but have there been any other hackathons you've done? And could you explain if it's like a similar or different format than Hack-SC?
Another hackathon I participated in is Athena Hacks, and that hackathon is specifically for people who identify as female or who identify as non-binary or trans. So it's a very fun space to just see a lot of other people from marginalized gender identities in engineering hacking away, and seeing that many people in one space is really exciting and really fun. Another hackathon I did one year was the Microsoft hackathon. That's because I interned at Microsoft and they allowed interns to come back and do their virtual hackathon. And that was a very different format in that it was a multi-day hackathon. I think it was 3 days, and you did it completely kind of asynchronously, and you just submitted videos instead of having live judges come in and look at your project. And then another hackathon I did most recently was CalHacks, which is UC Berkeley's hackathon. That hackathon was really, really big. So it was definitely crazy seeing, I think they had something over 1,000 different hackers. So that ballroom definitely got a bit smelly as the 24 hours continued, but it was a ton of fun to just see people from all over California and even people from other states and other universities coming together and hacking away.
Yeah, that's really cool. And then just a follow-up question to you, Emily, since you've done some hackathons outside of USC, how did you find out about those and sign up for those?
Yeah, so for the hackathons outside of USC, even USC's hackathons, so both Athena Hacks and Hack-SC are open to hackers from outside of USC. So it's those organizations are really great about publicity. So posting on their Instagram, posting on Facebook, the word gets around amongst people who are developers or hackers. For CalHacks, for example, someone in the Slack of another organization I'm in, Lava Lab, just posted looking for teammates. And I thought, hey, that sounds really fun. I almost ended up doing tree hacks again this year for that reason. That's Stanford's hackathon, just because, one of your friends wants to do a hackathon and you think, oh, why not? And then you just go ahead and join it. And then for the Microsoft one, that was unique because that was from an internship I had. And they just sent out emails to all their former interns asking if they wanted to participate. And, I can never say no to a hackathon when it's thrown my way. So I signed up.
Awesome. That's really cool. Thank you, Emily, for explaining that. And then I guess I can mention that I also participated in a hackathon my freshman year at USC. USC's Associated Students of Biomedical Engineering, they put on a yearly, I think they call it a makeathon instead of a hackathon. It's like a similar format, but basically you have to build a medical device or something similar, something around like the medical industry. And I think that was a little bit longer. It's Thursday through Sunday as well, but that was something different. And it wasn't like, I guess, your typical like hacking like on the computer or even hardware type thing. It was different. So that's another example of something you can participate in that I guess is technically a hackathon, but is less software induced or software oriented. And then I was also wondering if you guys could explain some of your projects. I know, Silas, you got first place at Hack-SC this year. And then I know, Emily, you got a couple of first place prizes under your belt. So I wonder if you guys could talk about kind of your projects that have won and how you guys have came up with those ideas.
Sure. I can start off talking about my project. It's still a bit fresh in my mind since I only completed it around 2 months ago. When me and my team first came up with the idea for my project, we had no ideas. We were kind of confused on what we wanted to do. All we knew was that we wanted to create a hack that had some sort of impact on the world, right? Because we feel like whenever you're making a programming project or something that's outside of class, that it should still be useful. And one problem that I had recently was that I traveled to another country and I was trying to get around. But naturally, if you go to another country, your phone service doesn't work, or like you're not able to access the internet, or sometimes hard to get Wi-Fi at the airport. And it's hard to contact other people. So what me and my team actually created was this app called StarPath. StarPath is a offline navigation app that helps end users navigate unfamiliar locations without internet access. So essentially, it sort of boils down to it's like a Google app similar type of navigation app that doesn't need cellular data or doesn't need Wi-Fi. It actually leverages something called SMS, which is something that your text messages often use to sort of like take advantage of like global networks and virtual phone networks that we set up, and uses that to access locational data online and actually return that data as SMS data. So at the end, basically, you have another navigation app that you could use, say, if you went to a country like Italy, or if you went to a country like, India, anywhere like this, it would be able to give you directions from address A to address B, which is really useful, especially in new environments or environments that you don't have a lot of cellular data or Wi-Fi access in.
Oh, that's really cool. And then could you also explain, you won a prize. I know that. You won some type of work. Can you explain what you got for that?
Yeah, so like I said earlier, our team competed in the global impact vertical, which is one of the 4 pillars offered in Hackathons this year. And so our project actually won first place for the global impact vertical, as in a project that was very creative, project that was very technically comprehensive, and a project that had the most impact in a global sense. So I thought that was really cool. We did use a lot of different, technological pieces. But yeah.
Awesome. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
And then Emily, you could explain. I know you have a lot of things to choose from. So maybe you could just talk about your favorite one that you've done.
Okay. My favorite one that I've done. Dang. I have probably some of the fondest memories of making was Iago, which was a dementia rehabilitation tool for people who struggle with dementia. A lot of times, of course, dementia is a very degenerative disease, and right now there isn't much of a cure for it, but I wanted to create something that would help people who have dementia practice kind of facial recognition and also keep loved ones in touch. It's really hard when you are a family member or a loved one with someone with dementia to know how to keep in touch, to kind of structure those conversations, and also just be a part of their lives still. So we kind of created this interactive experience where the patients can interact with this 2x2 grid of options, and they could kind of play this face matching game or exercise to kind of practice their facial recognition with people that they know, people that they recently came in contact with, people from their long-term memory, people from the past. And all this was also meant to be accessed by their doctors or caregivers, so they can see how good they are at recognizing people who are currently interacting with them or from the past, and kind of see the stage of their disease as a result. And it also had a feature where it would contact people if they weren't able to be, if the patient kept messing up a certain face, it would inform that person, not that, hey, this person doesn't remember you, but it would send them kind of a reminder to check in with that person soon. And that way we kind of wanted to, one, give this tool for doctors to see where in the disease they're at, because sometimes if you have dementia, you can perfectly identify a photo of your father from 60 years ago, but you can't identify the photo of your neighbor or the photo of someone that you're frequently interacting with. So it helped doctors get a good tool. It kind of helped patients have an exercise where they're seeing people's faces. And of course, it helped kind of form these bonds and continue these communications with their loved ones.
Wow, that's super cool. Both of you guys' projects are really cool. And then Emily, I know the project that you just talked about had both like hardware and software components. So just to the both of you, like how did you guys go about making your teams or finding a team to work on a project with, especially just trying to get as much experience and knowledge as possible?
Definitely. Well, I think the coolest thing about most hackathons is that it's very collaborative. By nature, you're allowed to form a team with other people. So it's a really, really cool and fun experience to, work with other people who are maybe in the same major, who are not in the same major, or maybe even different years, and also like grow closer to them or meet new people. So for this, specific hackathon, HackSC, I actually just sort of like asked around, people who lived in my dorm. I was like, I know a couple other computer science majors who, live a couple doors down from me or in a different hallway. And I was really interested in competing in HackSC this year, but I actually didn't know anyone else who wanted to. So I just, asked people who lived around me. I was like, hey, do you want to compete in HackSC? And that's how I got two of my teammates, just asking people who lived next to me. They were also interested. And we were like, sure, let's form a team. And then another person was actually someone who I met in an online CS community in Discord from USC. So that's sort of how I rounded out my 4-person team. And it was basically just a bunch of people who were also interested in competing hackathon, but maybe just didn't have any other teammates. But yeah.
Well, new friends. Through hackathons.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely.
What about you, Emily?
Yeah, for me, I think my very, very first hackathon, I just rounded up a couple of my friends. None of us were actually CS majors, and none of us knew how to code for my very, very, very first hackathon. But we had a ton of fun, and we ended up doing pretty well despite that. But that was how I found my first team. And then later on, I kind of started being more intentional with my teammates. I would ask in club Slacks and club group chats that I'm in for both USC Makers, which is a hardware innovation club I'm in, and Lava Lab, which is a startup incubator club that I was a part of, and essentially just throwing something out into the random channel of Slack and seeing who took it. And then of course, again, as I got a little later and a little older, I started being a little bit more intentional with my team building. I'm an electrical engineer myself. I'm not the best with front end. I can get an app together if it's necessary, but it certainly won't be pretty. So finding someone who's strong on front end and another person who's really good with their back end side. And if I had a more mechanically complex project, or I just didn't feel like doing CAD or designing things, I would even ask a mechie perhaps if I was doing a hardware hack. So kind of I started really trying to pick who I wanted to be on my team, but anyone's great and everyone's great really for hackathon.
How much experience did you guys have prior to your first hackathon experience? I know, Emily, you talked a little bit about how as you started doing more hackathons, you started really becoming more intentional about certain things. So I was wondering kind of what preparation you had, I guess, maybe in high school, that helps you in your hackathon experiences.
Sure, yeah. In high school, I didn't actually do anything technical, which was a fun change. Well, I did physics. I was really big in physics in high school. And I ended up joining my high school's physics club, but we didn't really do much. We did things, but like they weren't anything close to what I did in college. So for my first hackathon, I kind of just signed up because it sounded fun and there would be food. So I grabbed my friends and we signed up. And as I said, like none of us were mechanical engineers. None of us actually had any real technical experience at that point, beyond just a couple of things. And I wasn't really comfortable with many programming languages or a lot of hackathons isn't just being comfortable with programming languages, but also knowing which tools to use in order to do things easily or efficiently. And since I didn't really know any of that, we kind of just wung it, and it ended up working out. We ended up grabbing, at the time they had a hardware lab, so you could rent out hardware, and we rented out one of those Google Homes, I think. And they on Google they have a bunch of documentation for something called dialogue flow. So we ended up creating this teddy bear that talked to kids at the specifically it was for the detention camps at the border, so they had some kind of interaction, and it helped them check in with their feelings and have some games and things like that. So for that first hackathon, I really did not know what I was doing at all and had no high school prep. Yeah, at all, really.
Yeah, so I know I said I've only done one hackathon per se, but I guess I've had a lot of experience in similar sort of spheres since high school. In high school, I was really, really, really big into something called cybersecurity. And there's a lot of competitions in cybersecurity, primarily something called CTFs, which is called Capture the Flag competitions. I talked a little about it earlier, but essentially it's where there's a lot of, it's like a competition that spans like 1 or 2 days where there's a lot of like really, really, tiny challenges or problems here and there in different fields such as steganography, cryptography, forensics, binary exploitation, these big words that are really cool. But I had a lot, so I had sort of a background in sort of like competing in computer sciencey type competitions. I also did a couple of makeathons because I was very interested in hands-on things. So I've built a lot of things in the span of a little time, made a lot of video games and some, even like a Riot video game competition. But this was my first hackathon. I think that experience-wise, just being familiar with competitions was cool because sometimes it can get really, really stressful. I mean, even this being my first hackathon, as time, we had 8 hours, 6 hours, 4 hours left. I was really, really stressed out. I was like, what if we don't finish on time? But it's always important to submit just, what you have done, just to submit something. Um, I wouldn't say I have the most coding experience out of everyone who came to Hack-SC. I definitely, have like basic understanding of like a couple different languages. Uh, Basically things I've learned in class here at USC, like C++. What I've realized actually is that ideas are the most important because usually there's always, people at hackathons who are like really, really talented. They may know like so many languages, but sometimes if your idea isn't impactful or isn't like really cool or appealing to the judges, then no matter how cool a project you make technically, you don't know how well it'll do. So for Hack-SC specifically, me and my team, all we came in with doing is we had no expectations of winning or anything. All we wanted to do was use a new piece of technology. So we used a new front-end language framework, called Flutter. And we wanted to make something that had an impact, which led to our project StarPath. And even though our project wasn't the most technically complex because it used like cool technologies that we researched online and it had a cool interface and it was actually a very novel idea. I guess that a lot of people liked it. So experience wise, you actually don't need a lot of experience to do a hackathon. You don't even need to participate in a previous hackathon or, be like the best coder in your school. But I think like having a really cool idea and also a willingness to learn something new at a hackathon can really help you go a really long way. So.
Yeah, I think that's definitely really good advice, Silas. And then kind of just going off of that, like the way you talked about how you really wanted to try new things and learn new things at your hackathon. I was wondering for the both of you, how has like participating in hackathons supplemented your academic experience? Have you been able to apply things you've learned in class and then also apply things that you've learned in hackathons to classes as well?
Yeah, I think hackathons in class are very different and they feel very different, but there is something to be said about getting a project done and kind of developing a realistic timeline. I'd say hackathons are a very sped up version of perhaps a normal project's timeline. So that has been helpful and kind of knowing, I think it really does build confidence, if anything, because if you can build something in 24 hours, you feel like you can build anything in a week, right? So that's something that's really helped me for my hackathons. And then vice versa, as I got older and progressed through my degree more, I definitely ended up taking things that I learned in my classes to my hackathons. Things like when I'm the TA for the Distributed Systems and Internet of Things course here at USC. And there's a lot of those concepts like MQTT brokers and Flask servers and all that kind of stuff that really helps create an IoT project. And that's really helped me get projects off of the ground pretty quickly.
Yeah, sort of like piggybacking off of that. I guess I could sort of talk about it from both sides, and what I sort of learned. Some things I learned from like doing Hackathon, the most recent hackathon, was I'm a perfectionist, so it's very hard for me to actually say that something is done. So there's something about a hackathon, about having like this 36-hour deadline to complete a full project with just 3 other people. Like normally you think that's impossible. It actually like motivates me in a way to like work really hard, get different aspects of the project done, but also it helps me like sort of differentiate that, oh, I don't need to spend 12 hours just perfecting the font of our presentation, and it's helped me sort of prioritize like what needs to be done. And I've sort of brought that to my classes when I work on end of year projects here at USC, or I work on a team to work on a mini project for like an EE class or something like that, where that I could spend 1,000,000 hours working on something, but like these lessons I learned from the hackathon is like, okay, we need to prioritize these item A, item B, item C, and get this project done and not spend the rest of the semester working on it. Something else I think I enjoyed about a hackathon is that having the freedom to work on something that I'm completely interested in. Oftentimes, though we do have a lot of freedom in USC classes to like, work on various projects, that it's very tied to the scope of the class. So taking concepts from multiple classes, whether it's like, like Emily was saying before, distributed systems, as well as like intranet networking, or maybe some AI concepts, and throwing it together into a single project. I really like, conglomerating all these different things I've learned from different classes and using them in the same place. But yeah.
Yeah, thank you guys. I thought it was really interesting how you guys both touched on like how hackathons have really helped you with like your time management and prioritization in classes. I feel like that's not something that people would really think about. Like the first thing for a hackathon is like how it helps, I guess, with non-technical skills. So kind of just like going off that into like time management in a hackathon. Like say like I'm like in a 24-hour hackathon and I'm starting, like how would you guys, hackathon experts, I I should say again, recommend that people like break up their time in a hackathon if they had like say, I don't know, like 24 hours?
Yeah, so I think that there's this conception that when you do a hackathon, you should spend all of the time actually quote unquote hacking or programming, right? But I actually think that for our team, it was very, very useful to spend a couple of hours or a bit of time at the start of the hackathon to actually decide what we wanted to work on, like so the idea behind our project, and also beyond that, sort of like roughly planning out the different goals we would need to reach in order to complete our project. Because sometimes when you just have an idea and you're like, let's do this, and you start programming right away, it's kind of hard to see like where you need to go or visualize like how much time each task will take. So sort of breaking it down into broad, categories or concepts or, objectives that you need to complete to make the project true is something that's very important. So if I were to give you an ideal structure, just very, very rough, is spend a couple of hours in the beginning sort of ideating, figure out a topic or an idea that everyone's invested in, that everyone wants to work in. Then like go ahead, sort of like discuss like, different objectives that could make that project come true, like what each of you would need to program, and sort of split up the task. And also the most important part is to also leave a couple of hours towards the end to present your project. Because if you make the best project ever, but you don't have enough time to create your presentation to actually show it to the judges and show it to other people competing in the hackathon, then no one will know what your project actually does. They won't realize like how amazing it is. So always leave time to, either whatever the hackathon requires, whether it's like, making a video or making a presentation, just some way to show your project off to everyone else who didn't work on it.
Are you doing anything?
Yeah, and like Silas was saying, presentation really matters more than you think it does. And getting the details of that and spending a lot of time writing up a really, thorough documentation. Well, documentation isn't necessarily the right word, but there's these things called dev posts that usually you make, which is a post
Yes.
on, your project and what the reason behind it is, what technology you use, videos, photos, presentation is everything for hackathons. Even if your project is wonderful, if you can't present it well, you're not really going to win anything. But the other thing is that I think I haven't taken advantage of enough is you don't necessarily always have to enter a hackathon with the intention of winning or winning prizes or placing or anything like that. A lot of these hackathons, especially these collegiate ones, are incredible resources for networking because typically they have companies there that are just looking at students, and they all have booths, so you can network with a bunch of cool companies. They'll also have workshops on their technologies typically. That you can use in the hackathon, like there'll be a MongoDB workshop. And so you can learn a ton of new stuff about different technologies that you can use in different projects. And there's also just a lot of fun things that they do. There's little cup stacking things. And I think winning is great. I love to win, don't get me wrong. But sometimes you don't win. And if you spend all the time being really, really stressed and thinking, okay, I need to budget all my 24 hours this way because this is how to maximize my time. And then especially if you don't win, but even if you do, sometimes it's not enough to really have had a good time. I think the most important thing about hackathons is trying to have fun and trying to have fun with your teammates. There's no consequence for not winning, and you can have a really fun experience going around to all the booths, and potentially an even more meaningful one to just have a great time with your friends and have it be a fond memory as opposed to something that was really stressful for you.
I agree. Hackathons are a great way to get closer with your teammates and, just work on a fun project apart from school and apart from classes.
Awesome. Well, I feel like that perfectly segues into the next question I wanted to ask, which I wanted to ask if you guys had any favorite memories from any of the hackathons that you participated in. Maybe fun. They don't have to be about winning. Obviously, I want to know what people can look forward to in these 24 hours are weekends of hard work.
Wow, I have a lot of really fun memories. There's one person I do basically all of my hackathons with, which is my best friend Anjali. I'll shout her out in here. And we actually became, I think, we did not start off as best friends, is one thing to know. Like we basically randomly decided to just do Athena Hacks together our freshman year. And that was the beginning of, a wonderful friendship for me. So there was lots of just really goofy memories I have, a lot of them related to food, a lot of them related to just trying to find the best place near you to watch the sunrise, because when you're up that late, you're delirious, maybe 2 energy drinks in, spaced out over time. It's just fun to find the highest place that's accessible to climb to and watch the sunrise with your friends. And I've really treasured those memories that I have of just half asleep, deliriously looking at a sunrise over a parking structure. Also, when I don't have a lot of sleep, I get really giggly. So anything will be really funny. I remember one time, for the dementia hack I was talking about, we had test users and test doctors. And one of our teammates just gave them this name. It wasn't even funny. I think it was Frank Geopolis or something. And for some reason at 6 a.m. we all just thought it was the funniest thing. And there's videos of us uncontrollably laughing for 3 minutes straight, belly hurt type of laughter. And those are some of my fondest memories, I'd say.
Yeah, those seem really, really fun, Emily. But yeah. For me, from the recent hackathon Hack-SC, I thought something that was really ironic was going in, like I said earlier, we didn't actually care about winning or anything. We just wanted to have, try some new technology and make a project that was cool. So though I think our hackathon was around 46 or 48 hours, which means I covered the span of 2 nights. So during the first night, we all agreed we're okay, we're not gonna try hard this hackathon. We're gonna get some good sleep. So some of us slept for 10 hours, some of us slept for 12 hours, and we actually didn't start the hackathon. And we started actually on the second day with around 16 or 18 hours left. But for after like programming and presenting and designing the rest of that day, we actually ended up just having a contest. We're like, okay, everyone, try a different energy drink or whatnot. And we ended up just staying up or trying to stay up as long as we could programming to finish the project, which was a completely different outlook from before. We were just like, oh, we're not gonna try at all. We're just gonna like chill all the time. So I just thought it was really cool how my entire team sort of got into that competitive spirit, and we were just like, oh, we actually want to really, really, really finish this project and see where it could go. I guess another fun memory was that, because we decided to stay up all night the second night, we like woke up on the morning of like the final presentation ceremony and we were like, oh, we're not going to win anything. So we actually almost didn't go to the presentation ceremony at all, which would have been kind of ironic, considering we ended up getting first. But it was like only a very last minute. We were just like, oh, we probably should go just in case, just to see like the different booths they have and see if there's any free merch or, last minute free merch. And we ended up like half delirious looking, like walking up, sitting in the back of the room. And then they called their project name. And we were just like, is that the project we created? And we were like so confused. But yeah, it was definitely a great team bonding experience for me. And I really, really enjoyed it.
Awesome. No, that sounds fun. Like you guys make me want to do a hackathon for real. Just be out here coding. But another question I wanted to ask was just how participating in hackathons has expanded your network. I know, Emily, you talked about how like you met your best friend through hackathons, and then Silas talked about how you just met a bunch of random people. But I was hoping you guys to talk a little bit more about like, I guess, your professional network, and how like participating in hackathons has helped that.
So I'll just talk about my experience really quick because I'm sure Emily could give a far better response than me. But at Hackathons, something I thought that was really cool was that there were a lot of students, like college students, who actually weren't from USC. So when, I went to like sort of like entire hackathon wide events, whether it was on opening day or closing day or random events in the middle, that I was able to meet a lot of students from other colleges like MIT or Berkeley or, other USC students too, students I've never seen before. And I think a really cool memory is like, I was actually getting pizza ordered by a robot or like made by a robot, which is a story for another time. But we were all waiting in line and I ended up talking with a lot of people waiting for pizza with me. And it was really cool to see where all these students came from. Like a lot of students weren't computer science students. They were business students with cool ideas, partnering with like electrical engineers who were really good at making things and could also code. So it was really cool seeing like where a lot of different students had come from. I also attended a lot of like network booths too. So most hackathons, like Emily said before, have like a lot of industry sponsors or like, companies who just like come and chill and like watch the contestants, ask about your projects. So I was able to talk to a lot of really cool companies and like, see what projects they were working on. And they were able to talk to me and see what projects I was working on. And I still keep in contact with a couple of them too now. So I think I made a lot of professional connections too, like, various companies who are beyond just students or collegiate students who are, attending the hackathon too. So, yeah.
Yeah, like Silas said, I ended up making a lot of my professional connections at these hackathons because there's a lot of company people who just booth or table there. They like to watch you hack, I suppose. But my freshman year at Athena Hacks, I actually ended up getting my first internship there because Raytheon has this thing with them where their prize, a lot of these companies have prizes, but their prize is actually an internship if you win their most innovative hack award, which my teammate and I, Anjali, we ended up winning. So we ended up both getting internships together, and then we roomed together for the summer. So thus the beginning of our best friendship. So and then even beyond just actually getting a job, talking to those corporate representatives is a really, really easy way to grow your network quickly. And also just putting it on your resume, because companies love to see people do hackathons because it means that you do this in your free time. You do this for fun, which is something that they like to see because they want you to enjoy your work and be a good worker. So yeah, I think it's a really, really great way to grow your network very quickly. It's also a great way to put something on your resume if you need more personal projects, because it shows that you really take ownership of your work.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. I actually didn't know that about you and Andre. That's very cool. So I guess my final question, just to wrap it up, is I just wanted to know if you guys had any advice for anyone interested in participating in a hackathon or any words of wisdom.
I would say my biggest advice is just do it, and also make sure to prioritize having fun. They're supposed to be for fun. And if you're not there just to have fun, you lose the vision, and then you end up just not getting any sleep for a night with no real reward. The most important thing is the connections you're making with, your fellow students, other students, those friendships that you're making, those important memories, and really just trying to learn as much as you can. And typically, if you're having fun, that comes through in your presentation, and it comes through in your work when you really have like that passion for your ideas. I'd also say hackathons are a great place to test out an idea that you may have, and you may not think it's like a great idea, but you want to see how far you can get with it. Like my most recent hackathon, we ended up creating a robot that is meant to be an autonomous charging robot for unhoused populations in major cities so that they could charge their phones. And, that wasn't a very popular idea at the hackathon, but we ended up making this like really cool robot that went around and did that, which was really satisfying. So just, make something that you're proud of, and that passion will probably come through.
Wow, took the words right out of my mouth. I also agree that having fun is probably one of the biggest priorities you should have at hackathon. But addressing sort of another angle is that, when you do a hackathon, I think it's also important to have something that you're able to take away from it. So either whether it's like a cool new completed project or a new language that you partially learned to throw together a front end, whenever you do a hackathon, it's always cool to explore something new, using a new technology, using a new framework, something like that. Beyond just having fun, but also this is more in the technical sense. But yeah, I 100% agree with what Emily said earlier.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys both again for talking about your experience in hackathons, and then also just giving some great advice and anecdotes. I'm sure it'll be very appreciated by all the listeners. So hope you guys have a nice night, and thank you guys again so much.
Yeah, bye, Victoria. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Victoria, for that episode. I think that, bringing to light podcasts such as like this, talking about hackathons is, super beneficial just because of the different majors in there. Since you're a mechanical engineering major, I feel like a lot of times people don't think of mechanical engineers hackathon. They think of a bunch of coders sitting in a room just, grinding out and building an app all night long and not sleeping and just chugging energy drinks. And I think that this episode, at least for me, since I wasn't someone who participated in hackathons that much, really gave that extra perspective to students and shows that hackathons can be inclusive. It doesn't matter what your major is, but it's just about the ideas that you have and why you want to bring them to life. And those connections as far as like entrepreneurship, building your own startup, collaborating across majors, things like that are just really integral to the Viterbi experience. And I think that you guys really had a great time just talking about why those are important, how hackathons really foster those. And so for those out there listening, I hope that you take this episode as inspiration to get involved and join a hackathon. Just try it out at least once. It's never going to hurt. And you never know. Maybe the ideas you come up with, the people you meet can really encourage you to have those creative juices flowing, make some great ideas. And who knows, maybe that ends up becoming your startup. And we'll see you on the IPO deck on the New York Stock Exchange one day. You never know, and the sky's the limit. So, Victoria, again, thank you so much for being this episode. With that being said, like I said in the intro, congratulations as you're moving into May 1st with your college decisions. We're wishing you well wherever your home may be. Although if your home is at USC, we hope to see you in the fall or in the spring and get to welcome you to the Trojan family, welcome to Viterbi, and just really get to know you and see all the great things you're going to do on campus. With that, I'll end this week's episode as usual, and we'll be back to another episode of the Viterbi Voices podcast next week.